Okay, we're getting to the final two steps in the production phase of the pipeline. This is really one step, but we're splitting it into two because they involve two different LLM calls. So now that we have the nice newsletter post in Markdown, we need to add a nice header image. You've probably used image generators like Nano Banana, Midjourney, or DALL-E, so this will be familiar to you. One key difference is that we need to generate both the actual image prompt and then the image itself. And that's why it's broken up into two steps here, the visualizer, where we generate the image prompt, and then the actual image generation. So as usual, I will pose this as an exercise for you to take a first stab at this before we then, compare and then proceed with the prompt. So a couple of suggestions before you write down the prompt. If you remember, we have three different archetypes for our ideas that we then develop into newsletter posts. The meta trend, friction point, and rabbit hole. And one way to add some variety to the images that we're creating is to use a different style, a very distinct style for each of these archetypes. Yeah, so maybe think about what style would best represent each of these archetypes and how you might describe that. In terms of storage, we're going to use a visual concept model. Of course, you can call this whatever you like. That model should store both the image prompt, so the detailed prompt that we'll use for image generation. It'll also store the caption, so the short caption that describes the image. We saw this earlier when we looked at the example newsletter post on my website. So the visualizer step in this pipeline will be a single LLM call using Gemini 2.5 Pro. It'll load the winning candidate and the business model, so very similar to what we did for the actual newsletter writer. So it gets all the same inputs, and then it'll generate an image prompt and a caption based on that. And then we'll give it some guidance based on the different archetypes, what image style to use. And then in the subsequent image generator step, we'll use a different model. So I'm using Gemini 3 Pro Image, which is better known as Nano Banana. And this is where I'm kind of breaking from my usual habit of avoiding the preview models. Normally, the preview models are the most cutting edge, but they also come with lower rate limits and things like that. Now, in this case, we're only calling this once a day or so, and the difference in quality is worth the trade-off. So we'll use the most recent image model here. Of course, you can use whatever you like. There are cheaper models available as well, so pick which one makes the most sense to you. And for now, we'll just tell it to store the header image in the output directory. You have a lot of different options here. In the future, you could store it in the database if you want. You could upload it to your hosting service, whatever makes the most sense to you. But for now, for simplicity's sake, we'll just store it in the output directory along with the actual Markdown file. So go ahead and think about the prompt, draft something, and then come back to compare.